Well, good evening, my friends. I'm Erica Lukes, and let me tell you, it has been a week. It's been a day, as a matter of fact, and things have been very chaotic and tumultuous, but we are getting there, and tonight I know will be a very excellent interview. I'm really looking forward to talking to my guest, Mike Rogers. First of all, I want to just thank all of you out there who follow my work. I've been doing this for a long, long time, and I'm very passionate about what I do because I truly feel that there is something genuine to all of this, and I know, having gone through my own battles, that there are people that are taking certain events and they're manipulating them for their own gain, and that has hurt not only me, but people that I love. And so at the end of the day, it is my goal to try to empower each of us who has had a personal experience, and then also expose people that, you know, might have ulterior motives. And you know me with my work with Skinwalker Ranch, it's been a lot of hard bumps along the way, but I'm still here. And I also want to say that in the up and coming months, I will be talking a little bit more about some of the things that I've learned with Skinwalker Ranch. This has been a hard road for me, but I will definitely put information forward because you deserve to know. We all deserve to know. We've been conned and manipulated for far too long, and this is going to end. So I am here tonight with my friend Scott Brown. Scott, welcome to the show.
How's it going, Erica?
You know, it's going. I'm thinking, yes, it's going. And right now we could not add Mike Rogers to the show. And so I want on the video, but we've got him here on audio. And so I want to just introduce Mike. And can you hear me, Mike?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome. Okay. So Mike has been involved. He was involved in one of the most important abduction cases of all time. And I know that all of you who are listening have no doubt heard about the Travis Walton case. Mike Rogers was involved in the case because he was Travis Walton's boss of the Timber Stand Improvement Crew in Snowflake, Arizona in 1975. This case has been, like I said, it's a landmark case. I have interacted with Travis at many conferences, and it has been interesting to watch him over the years. I actually reached out to him tonight just to see if he wanted to come on the show. I haven't heard back from him. I know he doesn't check Facebook, but hopefully I will hear back from him. But Mike has a lot of experience. And Mike, first of all, hopefully you can hear me, but I want to ask you. Sure, yes, it's a miracle. Praise Lord Mary. So, Mike, first of all, please tell us about your background, because I know when we had talked before the show, you had mentioned that you had one granddaughter, and you were really proud of your granddaughter, and you also had, other, had a big family. So tell us about your family.
Well, I have, let's see, how many kids do I have? Let me count them. My oldest daughter's name is Dawn. The next in line is Cher. The next in line is Michelle, and then Nicole, and then I had a son named Michael. And then finally another daughter named Katie, or I call her KK. Anyway, since then I've had one more son. His name is Heston. And anyway, I think that's, 7?
Wow.
I have 8 grandsons and one and only one granddaughter, and her name is Zoe.
And how old is she?
Right now, as of yesterday, she was 10 years old.
Oh, that is the best age, because they're still fun and they're not sassy.
Right now on my Facebook page, at the very top, is a picture of Zoe asleep. About 11 o'clock last night, she finally just fell asleep on the couch. And anyway, she's a doll, I think an awful lot of her. We had a great party, and the only interruption I had during that day is this guy named Ryan Gordon. I don't know how many people heard about him. Probably wouldn't. You shouldn't even talk about it. Actually, I shouldn't. So I won't.
Well, I know that there has been a bit of controversy with that, and I saw that there was a recorded interview and things, but I want to talk about that later because, first of all, I want to talk about you, and I want to talk about what growing up, what your life was like, and then how things changed that fateful night back when Travis Walton was abducted.
Okay. Well, I was born in a little town called Snowflake, Arizona. Okay. And that was back in I was born on April 4th, 1947. So I'm 74 years old now. And I'm probably not going to live more than another 30, 40 years,
Well, that's good. That's good.
My grandfather, Rogers, lived to be 98. And he deliberately starved himself to death because he felt that he had just lived too long. And I don't understand that, but that's true. And my grandmother, Rogers, lived to be 94, and my grandmother, Howard, the other side of the family, lived to be 93. And my grandfather, Howard, he died when he was 64, I believe, of a strangulated hernia.
That's not good.
No, not good. I have a little bit of trouble with balance since I was actually struck by lightning when I was in the top of the tall tree installing the lightning protection system back almost exactly 15 years ago. And I was in the hospital from that for approximately a week. And my doctor at the time said that he and 5 other doctors concurred that there was nothing they could do for me, and so they sent me home to die. And I heard that, so I'll be damned. I got really angry about that. So the very next day, I got up and went to work. And at the time, I had 2 helpers, my girlfriend, Bernadette, and my son, Heston. Okay? And they were hard workers, but I just went at it. I mean, I went at it. I did everything I could. I couldn't hardly see. I couldn't hardly walk. I could think pretty good, but my balance was gone, and I was walking around on a cane and everything like that. Anyway, to go back to the original part of the story we started with. Let's see, 22 years of my life. And then I got married to this girl named Katie Collette, who then became Katie Collette Rogers. And we had 6 children. And later on, a few years later, I moved up to Lakeside, Arizona, and then Show, Arizona, and then Lakeside, Arizona, back and forth. One time I even moved to Heber, Arizona, for a while, and that was like the first 30 years of my life, 30 some years of my life. Anyway, all that time I've been doing artwork, paintings and stuff like that, and so it's steadily grown. Right now, I live in Lakeside, and I have a house, a 2-story. I'm on the 2nd floor, put it that way, where I am right at this moment, and I'm looking out east here, and we're starting to get some rain again. We had a hell of a rain yesterday, a little bit of one the day before yesterday. Anyway, I've been working on a Christ painting that is nearly finished. It's unique, I guess you'd say. It's Christ has got a tear in his eye, and he's got a beard and a mustache, and he's got wavy hair, and a white flowing robe. Anyway, there's actually a picture of that at one stage of development on that painting. You can find that on my Facebook page down the ways there.
And what can you tell us what your Facebook page is for everyone so they can check it out?
Well, you can get my Facebook page just by going to Mike Heston Rogers, MikeHestonRogers/Facebook /.
Wonderful.
And there you will find pretty much my whole life. I mean, practically everything on there. Some people say you're too open. Well, I don't have any secrets, so that's the way I am.
And so
I wish this show could have been a live video.
I know.
Audio, you know?
I know. I would, because I would love to see you. You know, I've watched you in videos before, and that would be fun to see you and interact that way. But we're here and we're doing it, and I just, you know, I want to go back to, you know, the incident in Arizona, because you were involved in something that pretty much changed the course of everyone's life. And so describe that particular...
Well, it certainly changed my family's life, and see, my, at the time of the incident, Travis Walton worked for me, along with a number of other people. In fact, in the truck, which was an international crew cab at the time, there was me driving, Kim Peterson in the middle, and Travis Walton on the outside passenger seat. In the back, there was 4 people. Alan Dallas, who has been dead now for 9 or 10 years. I think I heard he died of some drug overdose or something. Anyway, right next to him was Steve Pierce. And then next to him, going back towards away from the door, the right side door, was John Gillette, and then the back corner, the next door back was Dwayne Smith. Anyway, we quit work that day, actually a little bit after sundown, because my contract was behind, and we were trying to catch up. I always tried to do the best I could, and because this was a Forest Service contract, and I'd done those kind of contracts, so many different ones over the years. In fact, I'd spent probably 35 years of my life doing timber stand improvement, logging, tree planting, just all kinds of stuff. Brush piling with a cat, I even built a thinning machine, what I call a thinning machine. It would cut up to 9-inch diameter trees, and just leave a clean swath behind it. Anyway, that night, like I say, we worked until after sunset, and everybody loaded up. And of course, I was the boss, so I didn't treat my guys like as if I was a boss. I always acted like I was their friend,
Mm-hmm.
And later on, there was another competitor who said, "Why in the hell do you do that?" So, well, I just don't feel that I should act like a boss.
Right.
I mean, I was only 5 years older than the next oldest guy, and I was 28 at the time. Well, in fact, I was only 3 years older than Ken Peterson, and the youngest guy there apparently was Steve Pierce. But now, the other day he told me that John Gillette was only 16 at the time.
Oh.
I don't know, Steve didn't tell me he was 17, and John Gillette didn't tell me anything. So I
And how? Let me ask you, how long had you worked with each of these people?
With these guys,
Yes.
well, see, my crews would change from time to time over the years, and you know, at one point I actually had Travis Walton's brother, Dwayne Walton, working for me. That was like the year before I hired Travis, and that was 9 years before the incident, which was in 1975. So if you have any ability for math, anyway, back to the story. You know, we were working that night, worked till after sunset, headed up that road. It was very steep at first, you know, and I don't know, we went like a quarter of a mile, something like that, very slow up that hill. In fact, I didn't have a four-wheel drive. That International Crew Cab was just a regular, but so it was kind of tough going up that hill. But once we got up a little where it wasn't quite so steep, things were a little better. But I just put a new muffler on that thing because I was always knocking mufflers off. Anyway, we got up there to where there was a group of trees in the way. You know, we couldn't see much, but before that, the guys were seeing a little bit of light streaming through the trees. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so I didn't see a lot of this because I was keeping my eyes on this road because it was a very rough road. It had humps in it, you know, and so anyway, when we finally went around this corner, you might say, we broke into an opening, a clearing. It wasn't a real big clearing, you know, it was just a break in the trees, but it was pretty dense around the sides of it. And Travis yells out, "Stop the truck." So I did. And in fact, I couldn't see this thing, whatever it was at the time. I didn't know what they were looking at. So I put the emergency brake on and I turned the truck off. Okay. And everybody was just like dumbstruck, you know, just spellbound. I had to lean over to my right quite a bit in order to see up through the top of the cab. I mean, not through the top of the cab, but through the edge over by the driver's side door. And Travis had left that door open. And anyway, he ran up there a ways, and I leaned over in time to see him, you know, walking up there. And he walked up in a kind of he went kind of to the right first and up. But you know, this was only like less than 100 feet from the edge of the truck. We actually made it this later. 93 feet from the edge of the truck to the actual spot where Travis Walton was standing. Anyway, once I leaned over, I could see him and I could see this object, and I was very, very, it's hard to explain. I had never seen anything like that before in my life. I'd seen something, in fact, Travis and I had an experience with six people in the car. It was a Dodge Charger, and that was in 1970. And we were heading west out of Snowflake. Anyway, that was turned out to be a large sphere. It was when we got up close to it, we weren't more than maybe 300 yards away. It was up in the clouds. It seemed to be making the clouds, and it was a sphere, like I say. I mean, you could see that clearly. And it was a very strange color. It was kind of orange on the outside and purplish-like in the middle. I've done an illustration of that, which you can see on my page if you scroll down far enough. And anyway, it turned the light on. There was a light that went on the bottom of that thing and shone down on the ground and lit up the whole area. My little sister yelled out from the back, you know, "Is it the end of the world?" My little sister Joy. And anyway, back to the story again. Travis Walton standing there under that UFO, whatever it was, and he kept looking back a couple of times, and then he crouched down behind sort of underneath a log that was sticking out from this brush pile. I call it a brush pile, but it was actually a pile of logs that the cats had pushed up because a year earlier they had actually logged the area. What we were doing was going through and piling and taking care of what was left. Sometimes it involved large trees, sometimes small trees, but they just wanted to spruce the area up and log what was left. Cut down what was left and pile it. So that's what we were doing. And I had 3 people on saws with Travis Walton, Travis Walton, Alan Dallas, and John Gillette. Anyway, and the rest of the guys were piling. 3 guys piling, which was Ken Peterson, Dwayne Smith, and Steve Pierce. Okay. Anyway, Travis was standing there with his hands in his pocket. He crouched down. He then stood up, and at that time I didn't actually see what hit him. Okay, I had a lot of anticipation, anxiety building up. I just knew something was going to happen, so I turned away and turned the truck back on, released the emergency brake. And when I did, I was looking forward out of the cabin. When I did, the entire wood lit up a bluish green color, and it was brighter than day. It really was. I mean, it was amazing. And of course, my eyes shot right back there, and I saw him going through the air and land on his back. And he kind of bounced a little. The dust rolled up around him, and everybody in the truck was yelling for me, "Get the hell out of here, leave." I mean, and so I did, and I hit the gas, and I took off down that road, which was a very, very bad road with these humps of dirt in it, what they call thank you, ma'am. The road was closed, put it that way. And we had to dig around those piles just to be able to get around. So when I was heading out of there, I was not doing too well of a job of it, because I was just not knowing what was happening here. I just knew we had to hurry. Everybody's yelling at me. And so at one point, I knocked one of the mirrors off the truck. I may have knocked both of them off. I don't remember. I'm certain I knocked the one off on my side. And we went down the road about a quarter of a mile there very quickly. In fact, a couple of times we hit the humps so hard that the guys, they went up out of their seats. Like, I don't know if they hit their head or not, but we certainly, it was certainly a jouncing, Anyway, I had enough time by that time, which wasn't very long, just like maybe 30 seconds, actually. And I had enough time to think that we left Travis back there, And so I stopped the truck. And several of the guys were saying, "Why are you stopping? We got to get out of here," And they seemed to be frantic about that. I mean, all of them. And so we got out of the truck. I mean, I think Alan Dallas and John and Ken Peterson, of course, who was right next to me, and Alan Dallas got out, and Steve Pierce. Anyway, everybody eventually got out. Now there's two of the guys that are still alive and talking about this, and that's Steve Pierce and John Gillette. Kenny Peterson we've heard from him. Okay, somebody has anyway. They told. In fact, Travis told me himself here a few months ago that Ken Peterson was spotted by some people at an event Travis was at down in Phoenix here a few months ago, and so that's all I know about Ken. Okay, all I know is he's not talking about this. He doesn't seem to care, but apparently he is alive. Anyway, once we all got out, we looked back, and those who were out of the truck at the time saw this. Whatever it was, what we saw was a light in the trees, okay? Because being that far away, and that there was so much in the way, that we saw this light raise up and then streak off very quickly and just disappear very quickly towards the northeast, if I remember correctly. Anyway, and they will testify to that. Those of us that are remaining, myself,
and Steve
John
Pierce.
Gillette and Steve Pierce, yeah. So, what's your next question?
No, and so I want to just ask you, prior to the incident, were you, the UFO, the Betty and Barney Hill case was such an important case in the world of ufology. Had any of you heard the news about that specific case, and had any of you been exposed?
Actually, that particular night, we were watching that. I can't remember how many. I know I was. Anyway, I watched about, I don't know, maybe half of it. I don't even know how long it was. Okay, but the Betty and Barney Hill case, and I can't even remember what channel it was on. Somebody told us about it. I think at the time we only had 3 channels. That's snowflake. I lived in this 2-story green house with white trim on Main Street. So we, I got tired of, after watching it for a while, I thought, because at the time I didn't believe in UFOs. I really didn't. I thought it was all a bunch of nonsense. I was one of these blind skeptics, you might say, and so, everybody was watching that, and I thought, this is ridiculous. So I actually turned the TV off, and nobody seemed to complain about that. That was it. We went about other things. But that's my story about Betty and Barney Hill, okay?
Right. Thank you.
To continue with Betty and Barney Hill, okay? I never met Barney. He died sometime, way before. But when we were in, I think it was Connecticut, at an event put on by a guy named John, by the name of John White, and when I was there, I met Betty Hill, and she was telling me about how Bigfoot. She talked to Bigfoot every day in her backyard, and I thought, that's a little strange. I mean, you can make what you want of that, but that's all I can tell you about Betty Hill.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good. That's good. And then, but you had been exposed to that, and so when, all of you were in the truck and that happened, I mean, what were your first thoughts? I mean, all of you must have been terrified, and I'm sure each of you.
My first thought was not to know what was going on, and then Travis jumped out, and it went like that. As far as my own personal feelings is concerned, it went from what in the world are these guys looking at? What's going on? And from there to wow. I didn't know what to think there for a few seconds. In fact, I didn't know what to think the rest of the day or evening. I mean, that was so unusual and so astounding. I can't even describe it really. As far as feelings are concerned, when we went back to the site, okay, after we stopped a while and argued about it, in fact, I think we even went up what they call the rim road a little ways and turned around and came back, because some of the guys were saying, because a truck went by, we could see it from where we were, a pickup truck, and it was hunting season. So the guy, somebody in the back seat was yelling, "Let's go chase those guys. They've got guns." And I thought, guns? What in the hell? Good or guns?
That sounds like a fun pastime. Sounds good to me. That could be great.
We chased, I don't know, maybe a quarter of a mile or something. I stopped and I turned the truck around. We went back, and this time we went right back where we had stopped before, and we went on back on down the hill there ways to the site, and I pulled the truck up into the clearing and shone my headlights on it, basically in the clearing. I left the truck running. Well, we took a flashlight out of the glove box, and we proceeded. Everybody got out, And we basically, not arm in arm, but kind of shoulder to shoulder, you might say, we walked around through that clearing and then circled out around more to the outside, into the trees. And we couldn't find anything. Well, as far as emotions go, I broke down. I actually went to my knees, and I guess you could say I was crying. I don't know. I mean, Steve and John will both tell you that. Yeah, I did. But people don't understand what I meant by that, what was going on there. It wasn't so much, that Travis was gone. It was because he was gone, because we didn't find the charred body there. That's why. It was more tears of relief, you might say.
And so you see this beam of light, and then obviously you're you have a fearful response, and so your immediate response was, because you saw this beam of light hit him, that he was dead and charred from the heat of the light.
Yeah, well, I didn't see the beam of light hit him, but I saw him flying back after that, yes. Anyway, what was the question there?
Yeah, no. So you have this experience, and then you tell us where it goes after that, and how, you were driving down the road and trying to get back. And I want to ask you one question, actually, while I'm thinking about it. What typically was your schedule, and how late were you out at night? Was this unusual for you to be out this late at night?
No, we had been working late. I don't think. Yeah, pretty much towards sundown for the last. See, this happened on I think it happened on a Thursday, and the previous 3 days we'd worked late. I don't remember how late. I think it was really windy one day, and so we quit a little early. Anyway, I have all those records. I keep really good records, and I have them right here in my office. But I'd have to go dig them out. My memory isn't perfect. I just know where to look for them.
That would be great.
Yeah. Anyway, ask me another question, because I'm kind of lost here.
No. Okay, so you have this experience. Travis is gone. And then you make your way back to town. And so describe what the conversation was when all of you were in the truck after this happened.
Okay, well, once we couldn't find Travis, and we all got back in the truck, and we went very slowly out to the main road, and down the rim road, and then down this, I can't remember the name of that road, but we went down it, rather steep and windy road, and you go down to a place where now there's some white pipe rail fence, it wasn't there before, but anyway, you turn right there and you go on down. Pretty soon you get to Heber, okay? Mm-hmm. It's like maybe, I don't know, 16 to 18 miles altogether. And once in Heber, all the way down there, hardly anybody spoke. Really, just hardly anybody. And once we got into Heber, I was saying, okay, somebody needs to call the authorities. And I certainly don't want to say anything to anybody about it being a UFO, because they'll think we're absolutely crazy. So Kim Peterson elected to go call, and he did. And he called the local police, or whatever you call it. Turned out to be an undersheriff by the name of Chuck Ellison. And Ellison then radioed the sheriff in Holbrook, and his name was Gillespie, Marlon Gillespie. Mm-hmm. And when they came down from Holbrook, which took them, I guess, maybe 30, 35 minutes, which is kind of fast the road involved. But anyway, a guy by the name of anyway, he was an undersheriff, and like Sheriff Gillespie's right hand guy, and he was a total skeptic. So when they got there, the skeptic undersheriff started looking through the truck and looking at us and acting very strange, like, you guys are a bunch of nuts, Gillespie, on the other hand, just was very professional about it, just was asking questions and everything like that, And anyway, that night we conducted a search for Travis. Unlike you'll see in the movie, we actually went back that night. There was three of us, me, Alan Dallas, and Ken Peterson. John Gillette drove the truck back into town with Steve Pierce and Dwayne Smith. And anyway, we spent, I don't know, maybe an hour looking around for Travis, and we couldn't find anything. There were no tracks in the road. Of course, we found the actual site, but he went down. They had a four-wheel drive, and we went down, and it was like six places for 6 people to set. I don't remember what brand it was. I just remember the color, and I remember the fact that it was four-wheel drive. Anyway, we went down and looked for Travis that night, and for about an hour, and couldn't find anything. And so we went home. Anyway, I won't get into details about how we get home and all that stuff, but we went home. But the very next day, early the next morning, Gillespie had a bunch of searchers out there. And I got there kind of late, after they were already at the site. And I went there with Travis's brother, Dwayne Walton, who was there by that time. And he lived in the valley, in the Phoenix area. Anyway, during the search, this undersheriff, the skeptical undersheriff, kept asking all of us that were there, where'd you hide the body, stuff like that. And there were people on horseback, a bunch of them, and there were I don't know how many men out there searching, something like 50 or so. And I pretty much stayed at, you might say, the Grand Central Station of the spot. And I didn't go out searching with anybody. In fact, the guys that were with me, they didn't either. At one point, we noticed that there were these guys with some things that looked like Geiger counters, okay? And I went over to one of them, and I said, "Oh, what are you doing?" And he said, "Well, we're looking for radiation." I said, "Okay, well, check us." I said, "See if there's any radiation." Well, he ran his machine over us, and there wasn't any. So I said, "All right, I'm going to go get our hard hats," which I did. Either I did or one of the other guys went down and got them. Anyway, brought them up, and for some reason, you could hear the clicking, and it started clicking really loud. And this guy, I don't know who he was. He was dressed like a Forest Service uniform, right? In fact, all three of them were. But he rolled up his machine, and the three of them walked away. Walked up over the ridge and disappeared. So I thought, well, fine, Anyway, altogether, the search ended up taking 4 days. It ended sometime Sunday afternoon, and on Monday, in fact, on Sunday afternoon, I was back in town. In fact, everybody was back in town that afternoon. So I don't know what happened to the site. I just know that they kept searching. Oh, and there were 2 helicopters involved. They used 2 different helicopters which parked there on the rim road, And I saw those. It's either the second or third day. I can't remember. But anyway, when that afternoon, that Sunday afternoon, back in town, Sheriff Gillespie came right to us and asked us if we would take polygraph tests. And I said, well, yeah, okay. Steve Pierce said, I don't know about that. But anyway, I figured we'd better take him. So, and Alan Dallas wasn't anywhere around. I couldn't even find him. But we got word to him about the polygraph test. So all 6 of us showed up in Holbrook on Monday morning, somewhere around 8 o'clock, and we found a whole bunch of reporters in front of the steps of the. It was the old courthouse. It isn't anymore. In fact, right now, as of this moment, it's a museum. Okay, but at the time, it was the police station in Holbrook, basically. And we went in the door, got through these reporters and stuff, and went in. And we went upstairs on the second floor, and this, and very quickly, a guy showed up. His name was Cy Gilson, very stern-faced looking guy. And he was asking us basically to be kind of trying to explain to us what he was going to do and everything, but nobody was really listening to him, you know. And at one point, he walks over to me, and he popped me on the shoulder pretty hard. At the same time, he said, "You aren't lying, are you?" He popped me on the shoulder. I looked at him like, "What the hell are you doing?" You know? Anyway, we went ahead and took the exams, and they chose Steve Pierce first because he was the youngest, apparently. Actually, according to Steve, John Gillette was only 16 at the time, but you know, I don't know anything about that. That's just according to Steve. Anyway, Steve went first, and the examiner thought he would. I mean, I learned all this from the examiner later, and he told me that Steve was the youngest, and thought he could, because he was the youngest, he could get him to break, you know, something like that. But he was amazed by that because Steve passed the test. And then I don't know who was next. I do know that I was 5th, okay? And I don't know who was after me, but I was 5th in line. And of course, once the examiner got done with that, the test, which was for like 2 hours each and lasted up into the evening. I mean, it was dark outside by the time this was over. And he turned around. I mean, I caught him walking down the stairs, and I said, "Hey, what about the test? What happened? You know?" And he says, "Well, one of the tests was unusual. Is Alan Dallas? His test was inconclusive." I said, "Well, what about the rest of us?" And he says, "Well, usually I got somebody look at this first, somebody to get another opinion or whatever." But he says, "From what I can see, all of you passed." And so we were all relieved at that point. And anyway, the rest is history.
And so let me ask you, because there was the National Enquirer, and obviously the National Enquirer gave a hefty sum for a UFO case. And so at what point did the National Enquirer come into play, and at what point did Travis Walton take a lie detector test for the National Enquirer, which he failed?
Yeah, he did. And the guy that did that test was named McCarthy. I don't even know his first name. I don't think it was ever written anywhere. But anyway, his last name was McCarthy. And, that was for the National Enquirer, and he said that he flunked the test. But Travis flunked one other test recently. Well, not all that recent. Here, 5-6 years ago, he was in California taping a show to tell the truth. I think it's what they called it. and he was due to make $100,000 if he could answer all the questions. Well, he answered all of them except for the last question, and the last question was, were you really abducted by a UFO? I think was the terminology. And they reported that he failed the question. Now, I've seen a copy of that since, okay? And I've always wondered, why in the hell didn't he take me with him? Actually, Travis has tried to keep me out of everything since the last 30 years at least.
Why? Why would everything. Why?
I think because he doesn't like anybody in his limelight, so to speak. You know? I mean, I don't know why.
And so after all of this happened, and you mentioned 30 years ago, what specifically happened 30 years ago that would cause that kind of tension? And it seems like...
Well, I can tell you where it broke, okay? We were over in San Francisco doing having a speaking engagement, and Travis and I would do it together, and always my slides. It was my slides of my paintings and whatnot that we used, plus photographs of everybody and all that stuff. And I would run I would be first to speak, and Travis would usually run because sometimes you have this little clicker thing that you use and you can run the slides yourself, but whenever didn't have that, Travis would do it. Anyway, then he would come up, okay, and then he would do his thing, and I would run the slides for him. So anyway, in San Francisco, at this event, we were waiting at the airport for Travis to show up because they sent this cute-looking girl, and she was our ride, right? And Travis didn't show up. And he didn't show up on the next plane either. And he didn't show up on the next one either. And these were Southwest flights out of Phoenix that ran every 30 minutes. So here we were. I was a half hour early, easy. So by the time we were halfway into what would be the time we're supposed to speak, I said, we need to go. We need to just get over there, okay? Which we did. And I did my half of the thing like I usually would, waiting for Travis. And then this girl got a phone call from Travis because he had her number too, just like I did. And this girl says, here, she handed me her phone and she said, here, Travis wants to talk to you. I says, what? And Travis says, what the hell are you doing? Are you trying to take the show over yourself? I said, what in the world are you talking about? You were late. You were late. The only reason we left was to get this started, hopefully on time. If I hadn't have come over here, we wouldn't. Everybody would have gone home. He says, I don't care. He says, you left me with no ride. I said, Travis, shit. I said, just forget it. And I hung up on him. And then he shows up a few minutes later and did the rest of his thing, and I ran the slides for him. That was where the break came. I couldn't believe he would tell me that. I couldn't believe it. And so I never did another thing with him after that. But it wasn't because I didn't want to. It was because I wasn't going to be humiliated or have him talking to me like that, like I'm taking his show. That's absurd. But that's Travis. That's always been the way he is.
And so what? And so what happened after that rift? what did you do personally with that? Did you walk away from the situation, or?
Well, yeah. In fact, we were due to do that same stream, that same lineup of shows the next year. And I negotiated to get double the money the next year. But Travis wouldn't even talk to me. So I just let that go. I have no idea what he did after that.
And
All I know is I was no longer involved because I just wasn't going to be treated like that, have him act that way towards me, because that's just stupid for him to act that way.
And so what, I mean, yeah, I mean, that must have been difficult when you were trying to do things together. What, at that point in time, where was everybody else that had been in the truck that night, and Travis's family and the people that were directly involved in the case? What was their stance?
What do you mean by what was their stance?
Well, so I mean, so at the 30-year mark, when you had this rift, where was Steve Pierce? Where were the other people involved?
That rift happened in the year 2000.
And where was Steve Pierce at the time?
So that was 21 years ago.
So Steve Pierce, I mean, he's been kind of in this and then out, and I actually saw him at a conference a few years ago, but he had, from my recollection, he had mentioned that initially this might have been a black ops program.
But I don't know. Steve Pierce has so many different theories and stuff. I really don't know. I can't answer for Steve Pierce. I haven't been to any convention or anything since the year 2000.
And so you have you had any contact with Travis since that time?
Yeah, all the time. In fact, just a couple of days ago. Yeah.
And how are things? Are you guys okay now, or what's?
No, we're still bickering, and the truth is, Travis has been selling his book, which he either self-published or got more copies from Marlowe and Company. I don't know, but he has an agreement with me for 35% of book sales, and for the last 15 plus years, he hasn't paid me a single dime. And I know a number of people who have purchased books from him, either at conferences or by mail or whatever. And we're talking, he is asking like $30 for his book, plus shipping and handling or whatever. At conferences, of course, there's no shipping and handling, so I don't know what he's charging there, but altogether, that could amount to an amazing amount of money, and he hasn't given me a dime. So needless to say, I expect that money, and I don't know what to do about it now, because if I take him to court, I will definitely win, because all he can produce is that contract for 35%. But my sister owns the house that he lives in, okay? My sister Dana, by name, okay? So Travis was covering his ass from way back when they first purchased that house in Salt Lake. And in I don't know when that was, but Travis did that, obviously. Dana has told me this. Yeah, she's told me about this. She says, that's my house. Well, fine. I know that if winning in court, what's that going to do? Travis won't pay, which means that the only thing I could do is seize his house, so I'll be seizing Dana's house. So there you go.
And so, with all of this going on, I know that there have been, there's been an interesting interview with you where it appears that you had said that this was a hoax, and then you've gone out and said that this wasn't, and that there were things that were taking place that weren't factual. And so can you clarify that, because that's been very interesting to see, and I'm sure it's been a tumultuous time lately.
Yeah, well, since then I have negotiated with this guy Ryan Gordon, and I told him that I will say no comment, except that I am going to explain why. And other than that, I have one comment. In other words, I have several comments. One of those comments is, it appears to be a federal law to accuse somebody of digital manipulation. So I don't accuse him of that. You know, even though I did a while back, I won't. And other than that, I can say anybody can digitally manipulate anything digital.
Right.
and so that's basically it. I mean, I have no idea what he did with that recording of me. I have no idea, but I can say that much.
And so how did you first come into contact with him? Because I know that there are people in chat that I'm seeing. And let me just, and Steve, and excuse me for 1 second, there are all sorts of great questions in the chat room, and I just want to say thank you, and I'm sorry that I can't respond, but I've got the cell phone held up to the microphone. But so tell us about when you first came into contact with him and what happened.
Yeah, well, Ryan Gordon first requested my friendship on Facebook, and he looked like a decent guy. He certainly wasn't any bodacious sex babe.
Oh dear. Well,
I checked out his page, and he just says that he's a photographer, self-employed photographer. So fine. I accepted his friendship, and it went from there. It actually took him a couple of months to get to the point to where, in fact, how it happened really was that he was telling me by email that Travis Walton had told him a whole bunch of strange stuff about Gentry Tower being what we were all looking at that night, that the incident actually happened under or near Gentry Tower.
And what is Gentry Tower?
And he also, Ryan Gordon also told me by email that Travis claimed to have boxed Muhammad Ali and that I was his water boy. Another